Right.
Perfect.
All
Yeah,
right.
so let's dive into this. I'm actually excited
Thanks a
to
lot.
be your first interviewee.
I know. So this is John interviewing Bear. This is my first like this is my video podcast. So it's, what do you call it? A
A
vodcast? I don't know.
vodcast. Yeah, let's call it a vodcast. Yeah, there we go.
And so we're just here today to and just to spotlight what it's like in this journey, to just how we started and how we're progressing and what we're doing, and kind of to help you guys out, and examples of people like you and other people, and like I always say, like those people that aren't there yet but you're going to be, to see what it's not easy. We're all going through stuff. It's you got to push, but it's fun. It's a journey. So Bear, yeah, thank you for doing this. I really
Yeah, thank
appreciate it.
you.
Yeah. So like, when did you first start like this whole journey?
It's actually funny that you asked because I was thinking about it 2 days ago, and I was like trying to kind of find that, and I'm actually going to do a video on it here pretty quickly,
Nice.
but kind of reaching back and finding out where I kind of started that personal development journey, right?
Mhm.
And I call it my Oprah story of one day when I came home from school and my dad was watching Oprah, and he never watched Oprah, but he was watching Oprah, and there was somebody on the show that just had not had a good life. They had a terrible upbringing, terrible childhood. They were in and out of prison, they were in and out of rehab, just had a really rough go of things. And I said, out loud, I thought I had actually said it to myself, but I used my outside voice. And I said, man, this is such a sad story. And all of a
Right.
sudden, my dad, he was sitting in his old Lazy Boy recliner. And if anybody remembers the old Lazy Boys,
I
there
love
were
this.
all the springs and all the wood and everything else inside of those things, but there was that arm on the right hand side.
Yeah.
And when the arm came back, the leg went up, and you were able to
Yeah.
fully
Recline. Yeah.
yeah. But when that arm came forward, it was like 9 times as loud. It was just like you could
It went
hear it.
clunk.
Yeah, you could hear it in the next zip code,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And all of a sudden I just hear this clunk from dad's recliner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? What did I say? Right?
Yeah.
And he looks over at me with literally probably the one of the most sincere looks that
Aw,
he ever gave.
that's nice.
And he said, you've had a crappy go of things thus far. And he didn't say crappy, but I'll keep it
Right.
clean.
Right.
But he said, you've had a crappy go of things so far. I had a stepdad who was abusive, and that's another story for another time. But my dad ended up getting custody of me because of the situation with my
Oh
mom,
wow.
my former stepdad. And so he said, in this moment, you have a choice. In 20 years, you can either be on Oprah because of your crappy childhood
Right.
or in spite of your crappy childhood.
Nice.
But that choice is yours. And so that was probably the very, very beginning of the foundation.
Uh-huh.
But then there's actually something, and this is what I really dove into a couple of days ago. Back in the 1980s, there were advertisements from the Mormon Church, and they had this program. It was an audio tape program, and it was called Bounce Back. And what Bounce Back was, and I still remember the theme. It was like bounce back, and so like every track of this tape, they had just that quick little theme.
Right.
But I remember seeing that ad on TV again and again and again and again, and it was a free tape from the Mormon Church, and my
Right.
dad ended up ordering it for me. And
Oh,
I used to listen to that thing like every single night as a way to fall asleep, or just to just listen to. And I think that programmed into my unconscious just this constant repetition of just, there's a journey out there for you. And if you've
mhm.
had struggles, if you've had hard times in your life, you have the opportunity to bounce back. And that was the whole premise of this tape program. And I think those two pieces together, because honestly, that story, the what I call the Oprah story,
Right.
bounce back tape, kind of came together almost at the same time. I would say probably within 3 or 4 months of each other, my dad telling me that, and then that tape coming in the mail. And
Wow.
so I think that's where it started. and just gave me that foundation. Luckily, as a teenager, some people don't learn the message, well, ever, but others it
Yeah,
takes,
yeah.
in our 30s or 40s, and some people call it a midlife crisis in the 50s, whatever the case might be. But I was really lucky to have that foundation, if you will.
Oh, that's cool. And then so that kind of like straightened you out, or you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna make, I'm gonna grow and be.
You know, yeah, and it was really interesting because I wasn't, before my dad gave me that choice,
Yeah,
I wasn't doing well in school. I think the semester before that, I had I think a 1.86 GPA just because I didn't care.
been there.
Yeah, yeah. I was getting into arguments with teachers just because
Oh,
I knew
got it.
better, and there were a lot of trust issues with authority. Like, if
Yeah,
someone were to psychoanalyze me at that time, they
yeah.
would have came up with a whole slew of
Oh,
things to
yeah,
work on.
yeah.
And so, but it was one of those situations where, yeah, it was like I have the choice. I can either develop a more positive mindset or go down a different road. And for me, I chose positive. Have I been
Right,
positive 100% of the time every single day since then? No, of course not. That's
right.
unreal.
But you didn't make it an excuse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was like if I'm having a crappy day, it's kind of up to me to either turn it around or just accept
yeah.
crappy day, and there's going to be another day tomorrow.
Now, were you in the military too, weren't you? Or
Yeah, yeah. So after I graduated high school, I had a scholarship to college, ended up spent a semester in college, got married. And
okay,
then, yeah, I was like, well, I can't afford college and to
right.
be married at the same time. So I dropped out of college. And then we had our oldest daughter.
Uh-huh.
And then after my oldest daughter was born, I was like, man, this life stuff is expensive. And I had
Yeah.
talked to Army recruiters when I was in high school. And my
Mhm.
dad called me one day and he's like, you know what? Sergeant Tessmer keeps calling like all the time. And this was 2.5 years after I graduated high school. And I called the guy up. Long story, but I ended up enlisting, and I did 12 years.
Nice.
Well, did 12 years in the Army.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, yeah, and
And
that was a good time. Got to see parts of the world that I probably wouldn't have seen had I not.
right,
And when it came time, the last 4 years that I was an Army recruiter. And
nice.
so we spent some time kind of out in the civilian world amongst the civilians, right? And my daughters just really loved the place we were living. And we were living in a small town in southern Idaho, and they just really loved it. And so I said, you know what? At this point, you guys love this town more than I love the Army. And so at that point, it was time to get out. And
Okay.
yeah, at that point, that's really, I guess, when I would say I really started to dive back into the personal development realm. So we're going on what, 15 years now
Okay.
since I really started to take that deep dive back into personal development, coaching, belief, believing in yourself, believing that you're capable, that you have the skills, you have the abilities, that you have the background,
Right.
because I think that's what so many people are lacking in society, is that
Yeah.
belief in themselves.
Oh, it's
And
huge.
yeah.
Huge. So you were a coach recruiter, so that was some nice training. And so that's kind of funny how our life goes in little steps, and you're like, oh, I've done that. Like I taught classes for a short period and made courses and stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like it's these little
Yeah.
pieces. Like I'm saying, like the puzzle pieces. You're like, oh, this little piece fits with this piece
Hmm.
and that
Yeah.
piece, and
Yeah.
it's
Everything that we do, every experience that we've had, we can definitely use that to our
right,
advantage.
right.
For me, I've never been afraid of public speaking, for instance.
No, me
And
either.
so, as a recruiter, obviously we're standing up in front of classrooms, giving presentations, trying
Right,
to sell the Army, right? And so I was able to build on those skills. First of all, that I wasn't afraid to speak in public. And so that kind of gave me a leg up in just going out and saying, hey, I can go out and do this.
right.
And yeah, but again, it's belief, right?
But
I didn't have that fear of public speaking, and so that
right.
allowed me to believe in myself while I built more skills.
Oh, that's cool. And I don't know like when you graduated or whatever, but like I didn't go in the military at the time because like all the people I saw were going in the military. They were just like, drinking a lot. We'll put it
Yeah,
that way.
there was a time, especially back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s
But
when
this was like late 70s, early
late
80s.
70s, early 80s, but
Yeah.
judges were still telling kids,
Oh yeah.
okay, you did something stupid, you can either join the army or go to jail.
Right, right.
And those were the kids that were joining the army, right?
So I went to trade school and then so I figured that, then I didn't feel like I knew I was doing something. I was gonna 2 years. I got my A&P to work on aircraft. So
Right.
I went to school for that. But like my son, he he's all, Dad, I'm gonna join the Navy. I'm all, what? I mean, he's 32 right now. So
Right.
and I'm all, okay. But it was like the best thing he did.
Yeah.
And I know, like, we hire people from young people now, they've been hiring, and you can tell who's been in the military. It's
Yeah.
like night and day. You can really tell.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing for him. It was really good. The time that he said, "Hey, Dad, help me move to San Diego," because he was stationed in San Diego. So
Hmm.
I'll be there at like 4 or something. He showed up like 15 minutes early. I'm all like, "What the heck?" He's all, "If you're not early, you're late." I'm all,
Right.
"What?
Yeah.
Who is this guy?"
Oh yeah. No, that's see, and I was kind of that opposite guy. When I was in the army, I've never respected time. I'll put it that way.
Right.
But when I was in the army, I was the guy who
Oh,
Reveille played at 6 o'clock at 6
yeah.
a.m. 0600.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, Reveille played at 6 o'clock. And I was the guy who would show up to formation because if you weren't part of the formation when that first note of Reveille sounded,
Yeah.
then you were in trouble.
Oh,
But
no.
I was the guy who was bringing my right foot up to the line just as
Oh,
that
it's
first
just in
note played.
time.
And I was like, oh, how close can I get it? And then when I left the army, I would show up late to meetings, 5 or 10 minutes late, and I had all the excuses. But I listened to Tony Robbins one time, and he was talking. I don't even. I wish I remembered what program it was that he talked
Uh,
about. And he talks about going to lunch with one of his mentors, and he
yeah.
showed up like 10, 15 minutes late, whatever it was, and told his mentor, had all the excuses, traffic sucked,
Right.
car wouldn't start,
Right.
whatever works, right? The best
Right.
excuse, the last one you used that worked. And he was apologizing, and his mentor just told him flat out, he's like, you know what? That's fine. It just shows me that you have no respect for me or my time.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
true. That's
when
true.
I heard that, I was like, I'm never showing up late again. And so it wasn't
Yeah.
Tony that taught me to not show up late. It was dang Tony Robbins who taught me to not
Oh,
show.
that's
It was
funny.
actually Tony's mentor, for this
Uh,
mysterious mentor that told him about it. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be late again if I can help it.
so if I have a party, you won't be fashionably late
No, no, but I'll show up like a minute or two early.
on time.
But
Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
oh yeah,
So that's really cool. So yeah, I'm really happy to meet you and in the group and be active
oh
and
yeah.
in your and working with you. And it's just awesome. I've met great people here. I'm sure you have, and
It's an
you're a
amazing
great
family.
encouragement. It
Yeah,
is. It is. It
it's
really
so
is.
awesome, and it's so easy to keep that fire going because we have so
It
much
is.
fuel from so many sources, right?
Right.
And
Right.
their motivation, right, is one of those things that it's fleeting. You get motivated for a day or two, and then it's like okay, and then you get distracted by shiny things, and then
Right. Right.
that motivation fades. But when you find a family that is there to fuel that fire of motivation, and there's just
Right.
I get constant fuel. I'll look at the Facebook page and things like that, and people that are
Oh yeah.
struggling, people that are succeeding. You've
Oh, I
got the
know.
whole gamut of situations going on, and that is such huge fuel for that, because it's like, oh my gosh, there's people out there that need help, and there's other people that are succeeding, but we all have
Right.
access to the same stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
yeah, why is it that some people struggle and some people succeed with the exact same materials? But
And
that, like I said, that's the fuel that says, okay,
it
how
is.
can I be better at what I'm doing so that
Right.
fewer people down the road will struggle? How can I encourage people who are struggling to stay the course? But how can I
Exactly.
also encourage the people who are succeeding to keep their momentum up, to be that
Yeah.
example, to be those leaders
Right.
that they are. And that's what I love. Like I said, it fuels me.
No, me too. It's well, if you think about it, it's like life.
Yeah.
You because I mean, I've sat in the background before, and I mean, the more you get involved,
Mm-hmm.
the more you get out of it. And same with life. And if you sit in the back and you just watch people and you just, kind of shyly, this is like a microcosm of, and it's so much easier now because like before all this Zoom and everything else, you would go to a seminar and you would be by yourself,
Yep.
and you might have made a friend or something. You might talk on the phone.
Yeah.
You might, if they live close to you, you might maybe meet up. But
Mm-hmm.
this is like I've formed friendships with like Andy and different people that are like in the UK and
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
And
It's this global
so
family,
nice.
right? And
It
that's,
is.
that's why I have
Yeah.
my background is for that very reason. It's because every
Right.
time I get on a Zoom or every time I record a video or anything else, that's
Right.
behind me because I recognize that we're all part of this giant global family. And as such,
Exactly.
it makes it, for some people it's overwhelming because they're like, oh my gosh, I have to change the world. And to those
No.
people, I always say, if you change the world around you, start with that. If you can change the
Yeah,
world
because
around you, within your peer group, within your family, whatever the case
right.
might be, and obviously it starts with you. But if you change
Yes,
the
exactly.
world around you, that's where it starts. Then you can start
Right.
worrying about having a global impact. But by having this reminder behind me, like I said, it constantly reminds me that we're just a big part, just a big global family, and
Oh
we
yeah,
have
we are.
so much in common, and it's exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and I really realized how much in common when you start hearing the post and you're like, it's like I cleaned my whole house because I was going to do this one thing and I did everything but, and I did
Uh-huh.
everything that I hate. Cleaned the oven, I cleaned everything, I
Yeah.
like, and it's all, oh my God, I'm not the only person who does that.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's finding those commonalities. And I'm very fortunate that I, do online weddings and things like that because
Oh yeah.
it's awesome for me to be able to celebrate literally people's happiest days,
Right,
and
right.
it's awesome. But again, it's all over the world. And the exciting thing about that is it reminds me that love isn't just an American thing. Love isn't just
No.
a British thing. It's not just love is literally universal. And by getting to celebrate love with people, like,
Right.
yeah, my wife and I counted, we're up to 24 countries that we've done weddings in.
Oh, nice.
And you want to talk about a universal principle, that's it. In fact,
Right.
I need to write that down because that's another video idea.
There you go. Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah,
Oh, you wouldn't believe I've been waking up at like 2 in the morning with these ideas, and I'm all, oh my God, I gotta write that down. Like this morning when I'm all at 2 in the morning, I'm like, I'm gonna talk to Bear. Let's do a podcast.
yeah. Oh, I love it.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I've
that's
been saying I
awesome.
was gonna do one. And like I tell people, the ones that are like, how do I make a video? You just make a video.
Yeah.
How do you make,
Yep.
did we plan this for like a week? No. A
No.
guy contacted you this morning and we're like doing it right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we'll just post it. No editing,
Yep.
whatever.
No,
People
it's
want,
awesome. And I call those 2 a.m. mornings, and I know we've got to
oh my
jump off
God.
here pretty quick, but I decided, so I have sleep apnea, which means that when I go to sleep, like
Right.
I'm gone. Put the mask
Yeah.
on, sound like Darth
Yeah.
Vader or
Yeah.
Maverick, and I'm
Right.
gone, right?
Yeah.
But what I've been noticing lately is I'm so inspired by different things that I'll wake up in the middle of the night, just kind of between those REM cycles, right? And I'll
Right.
have this idea, and all of a sudden I can't go back to sleep. And so, as someone with sleep apnea, that like never happened before. So, what I've
Right. Right.
started to call it though is if I don't do something about it, if I don't get up and write a post or take a note or whatever the case might be,
Right.
it's gone. So, I've started
I
to
know.
call it insomniaction. And it's that thing that keeps you up at night that you just have to do something about.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's my new word for it, is insomniaction. And so
Insomnia
yeah,
action.
I'm going to try and get it in a dictionary somewhere, but it's the action you take when you can't sleep in the middle of the night. And so, yeah.
That's cool. That's
But
better than zombie action.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so yeah, it's just another form of insomnia, but it's actually doing something while you can't sleep. So yeah.
Well, it's been really great doing this with you, and we'll get this wrapped up. And then this is encouragement to everybody that's out there. I did a post on the mastermind. They said you're self promoting, and I laughed because I'm all, yeah, this is John. I'm taking uncomfortable action. And I'm self promoting. I'm promoting yourself to get out there and get involved.
Oh, too funny, too funny.
So, all right, Barry. Well, it's been really great. We'll do this again.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
All right,
Appreciate
love
it.
you, man.
I love you too.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, take care. Bye.